Hey, happy Friday. This week, OnePlus and Realme shut down much of their global operations, Samsung announced titanium displays, and TSMC showed us where much of the global chip manufacturing is going. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. This video was sponsored by Nebula. Okay, for my first story of the week, it's official. After a lot of speculation, OnePlus has officially announced that they've, quote, decided to conclude new product rollouts in Europe and in North America, aka they're shutting down their business there. OnePlus says that warranties will continue to be honored, but Oxygen OS is going away, and instead, OnePlus users will be given the option to switch to Color OS starting with Android 17. That is the flavor of Android that Oppo, OnePlus's sister brand, uses, so OnePlus is really getting put on ice now. In a separate post, OnePlus claims that their Indian operations are not going to be affected, though there are now new rumors about OnePlus leaving India in 2027. And to add to the news, Realme also officially announced that its future devices will launch with ColorOS 17 as well, and that the company will also cease its operations in China. So both brands are now significantly cutting down on their international footprint and will be partially folded into Oppo. Not a complete surprise given all the rumors that we've heard, but still pretty sad. Counterpoint just reported this week that global smartphone shipments actually fell by 11% year-over-year last quarter due to increased memory prices, and that the shortages disproportionately hurt Chinese brands selling cheaper models. We can see Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi losing market share in an already shrinking market, and I bet that OnePlus and Realme with their focus on budget models fared even worse. Anyway, sad news for competition, but for my second story of the week, let's move on to some more positive stories in the form of some cool new tech. Samsung has announced that their next-generation foldable displays will feature two titanium-based layers. These will likely go into the soon-to-be-announced Fold 8 and maybe even the next iPhones, and here's what we know. On top you have the usual protective layer, glass and OLED, and then underneath you first have a titanium alloy film, and under that there is the titanium plate. The way I understand it is that the bottom plate acts as a solid, rigid base, while the alloy is actually a super thin, flexible layer that is attached to the bottom of the OLED layer and bends together with it and supports it, so that the two layers together should make for an almost invisible hinge. Now, Samsung is not the first company to use titanium in their foldables, and the last time I heard about it was when Oppo said that their latest foldable came with a titanium flexion hinge. That said, the Samsung tech actually looks completely different from what Oppo announced, and we'll know next week if it's any good, because that's when the foldables are coming. Double titanium alloy hinges, that's pretty cool. Okay, for my third story of the week, TSMC, the world's biggest chip maker, had their earnings and they announced some pretty wild things. First, unsurprisingly, they made an ungodly amount of money, with about $40 billion in revenue in a quarter. It used to be that smartphones were almost half of what they made, but now the only thing that matters is HPC or high-performance computing, aka AI chips. The excellent Tim Koppen in his newsletter that I've linked to below put together this graph, where we can see that they now charge over $9,000 per wafer, which is up from about $3,000 10 years ago. They roughly tripled their prices amid the boom. And this chart meanwhile shows capital expenditures, so basically them building out new fabs. You can see a COVID-era boom, then a decline afterwards, and then a new boom now, though of course they're still building slower than the chip makers would actually like. Most interesting though is that the company and the US government announced that they're adding $100 billion more to their Arizona fab build-out plans, which will bring them to a total of 12 leading-edge semiconductor and packaging facilities. This will apparently even include 2nm fabs, so fairly high-end stuff. That's a very substantial amount, and we know that Apple, Nvidia, and all the other chip makers are pushing them for this as well, but TSMC also did hedge their bets quite a bit. They specifically did not give a timeline and said that the build-out would depend on the market situation. So yeah, not exactly ironclad commitments, but probably pretty major commitments to US chip manufacturing anyway. Okay, for our release monitor, Motorola released the Edge 70 Max, which is notable because it actually features proper Qi2 25-watt charging, including magnets. This makes it the first phone to get what we colloquially call MagSafe for Android after the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Other than that, this is a pretty standard budget flagship phone, but nice to see that Qi2 is actually catching on now. And our second new product this week is the slightly bizarre Codex Micro. It's a $230 custom keyboard thingy built to help you control OpenAI's desktop app, Codex. It has a custom microphone button as well as a dial for setting how much reasoning you want your AI to do, and there's also other buttons that switch between running tasks, accepting things, and so on. Now, do you need an extra keyboard when all those buttons are on screen already? I don't know, but apparently now you can get one. And moving on to the brief, if you're really excited about OpenAI hardware, we've just learned that the firm's first really important device will be a movable screenless speaker built as an AI companion. So basically an Alexa, or should I say a HomePod, because the entire hardware team will be poached from Apple at that point? Because that's right, it's Mark Gurman, the Apple reporter at Bloomberg, who got the scoop, and Apple just last week filed a lawsuit against OpenAI for stealing their trade secrets, so we'll have to see where this goes. Moving on, Samsung did a pretty big oopsie this week by introducing a toggle to Samsung Health, which asked users to consent to using their health data for AI training and modeling, and then when a user chose to opt out or to not accept it, they said that the user would, quote, not be able to sync health data with your Samsung account and your health data will be deleted. This sounds like opting into AI training is mandatory. Obviously, a lot of people freaked out. I have a Samsung Watch, so I decided to try this myself. Indeed, when I opened the app, I got a pop-up asking me whether I want to opt in, and when I checked the details, the app said that it would include everything from body measurement to nutrition to what medications I take, etc. So everything, which is pretty dramatic to be honest. However, unlike in the reports, I could actually just opt out and nothing actually happened. Since then, Samsung gave a statement saying that, oops, this was all a mistake. They totally meant that only data that you uploaded for AI processing would stop syncing with Samsung Health and would get deleted from their servers if you opted out. So they're saying that basically just their original description was really sloppy. Now, do you believe that they messed up the description, or do you think that there was some actual pushback and they decided to change course? I think the original description would have been basically illegal in the EU, so I think it probably is mostly a mistake, but I'll let you decide. Anyway, next, the Chinese brand Hisense had a pretty fun idea of theirs leaked. They're making an e-ink phone, so far so good, but then they also slapped on a magnetically attaching LCD screen on the back for if you want to have a full-color fast screen. Is that genius or dumb? Like you just add the full-color LCD whenever you need it? I can't decide. And talking of things where I can't quite decide where I stand on them, the European Commission now officially forced Google to open Android to third-party AI assistant and also to share search data. First, Google has to give third-party AI assistants on Android access to key system features that are currently only available to Google's own Gemini. This is very similar to what Apple has to do with Siri, and I'm mostly on board with this. But second, they also have to share anonymized search data with eligible third-party search engines, including AI chatbots. The Commission says that the search data has to go through a kind of anonymization process, but we know for a fact that those are never 100% safe, so yeah, I'm quite torn on this. Next, in some good news, Amber reports that in June, a full quarter of the EU's electricity production just came from solar alone. You can see the year-over-year ramp up, and you can also see in this chart that both in May and June, solar alone is now the single largest source of electricity in the Union. Nice! But hey, if the news felt a little bit too optimistic, fear not. Elon Musk has quietly bought a $1 billion gas turbine company to power Grok. Illegally, mind you, since many of the turbines are explicitly put up without permits and violate local emissions rules. But yeah, the gas turbines will not only power Grok, but also Claude and others, who are all starting to lease capacities from SpaceX. Cool and normal. And while we are at AI, believe it or not, my mom sent me a Hungarian article with a particularly wild chart in it. It shows the largest export categories of my small home country, Hungary. Blue and orange represent cars and batteries, which have been the cornerstone of Hungarian economic planning for decades. We have massive factories built and subsidized for BMW, Audi, Mercedes, BYD, CATL, etc. Meanwhile, teal basically stands for AI server hardware built by a single Foxconn factory that most Hungarians didn't even know existed and was basically an afterthought for politics. On a monthly basis, this has now become the largest export category of the whole country. A single factory. That is wild. Now, if you like unexpected statistics, here's another one. Every Friday, about 3,000 to 4,000 people tune in to watch a Q&A session at the end of this very video over on Nebula. This has become extremely popular. And this week's Q&A session is closely related to a lot of topics that we've talked about on the show today. Philip asks how the AI boom and chip shortages will ripple through and impact industries beyond traditional tech sectors. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and every week we tackle a new topic that has essentially become like a second weekly bonus video. Nebula is of course also home to much bigger projects like Welcome to Goon World, where the fantastic FD signifier takes a very honest look at how adult content and the internet is affecting our brains and our society. It's very smart and very timely. This is a Nebula original because discussing this topic as in-depth as he would have been challenging on YouTube given the obvious censorship requirements here, but also because Nebula funding generally allows us to explore topics much more in-depth than usual. Meanwhile, there's a ton of other content on the platform like Tom Scott's England series as well, which is one episode ahead on Nebula. It's one of my favorite shows to watch. Getting a Nebula subscription lets you ask me questions that you want to have answered directly. It gives you access to tons of great videos, and it also helps to fund what I think is a small but valuable slice of the internet that isn't overrun by low-effort AI slop that is designed to tear our society apart, but is instead just carefully crafted videos made for you by people who actually care. And best of all, with my link go.nebula.tv/TFC, which is also linked in the description, you will also get a discount. Nebula costs just $30 for a full year instead of the $60 that you pay with a regular link, plus it also lets Nebula know that I sent you, so that directly supports me. Oh, and if you hate ongoing subscriptions, we even have a lifetime offer. With a regular link, that'll be $500, but mine brings it down to $300 as well. So check out go.nebula.tv/TFC or scan the QR code on screen, and I'll see you over there.